1980.
To boldly go where no man has gone before.
Boldly taking talk radio where it has never gone before. New vistas, new voices, new views, new visions, new victories. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we're taking public media black.
Welcome to Areva Martin in Real Time. I'm Avi Bernard in for Areva Martin this evening. Let's get you caught up. One of Ukraine's closest and most vocal allies has now said it will stop sending arms to Kiev, a major reversal that threatens to upend Europe's strategic relationship with the country as it wages a counteroffensive against Russia. Poland's decision was both sudden and predictable, coming after months of tensions over a temporary ban on Ukrainian grain imports to a number of European Union countries. It also follows a pattern of increasingly confrontational behavior towards Kiev from Poland's government just weeks before a tight general election. Angus Cloud died of an accidental overdose, according to the Alameda County Coroner's Office in California. A coroner spokesperson said Angus Cloud died from a lethal combination of fentanyl, cocaine, methamphetamine, and what is ruled an accidental overdose. He suffered from acute intoxication from the combination of drugs, which also included benzodiazepine. Cloud, who was a rising actor best known for his role in the HBO drama Euphoria, died in July at the age of 25. As he continues to process the loss of his Migos bandmate and nephew, Takeoff, Quavo is turning his grief into action. Yesterday, the rap star headed to Washington, D.C. to speak on a Congressional Black Caucus panel about gun reform and met with Vice President Kamala Harris. Takeoff was shot and killed in September 22 while attending a private party at a Houston bowling alley. And now another rapper, Boosie, is asking for a meeting with Vice President Harris, despite previously targeting Harris and blaming her for Brittany Griner being held in a Russian prison. Rupert Murdoch, the Australian who reshaped conservative media, plans to step down as chairman of Fox Corp and News Corp. He will become chairman emeritus of the two corporations. His older son, Lachlan Murdoch, will become the sole chairman of both the firms. In recent years, Fox News opinion hosts have drawn intense criticism for pushing conspiracy theories and falsehoods. Fox Corp and Fox News were sued over those false allegations, most notably by Dominion Voting Systems, which settled with the companies for a staggering $787.5 million this past April. It remains to be seen whether Fox News opinion hosts under the new corporate regime will continue to bind themselves to Donald Trump. And the day she was set to receive an award recognizing her work promoting inclusivity and social justice, Lizzo was again sued by a former employee who said that behind the scenes, the entertainer allows bullying, harassment, and racial discrimination. Fashion designer Asha Daniels told NBC News that the day before she filed her lawsuit against Lizzo and other members of the singer's team. The suit filed today by lawyers for Daniels in Los Angeles accused wardrobe manager Amanda Nomura of doing stereotypical impressions of Black women, referring to the performers as fat, useless, and dumb, and forcing them to change in front of a mostly white male stage crew who would lewdly gawk at them. And Ron DeSantis' long slide continues. The Florida governor, once seen as the top rival to former President Donald Trump in the 2024 Republican primary, sits in fifth place in New Hampshire, according to a CNN poll released yesterday. He hasn't visited the state in more than a month. A Seattle police union leader was caught on camera joking about a woman who was killed by a police cruiser, saying her life had limited value and the city should just write a check. Daniel Aderer, vice president of the Seattle Police Officers Guild, responded to the scene of a January crash where another Seattle police officer had struck and killed Janavi Kandula, a 23-year-old graduate student. The other officer was driving about 74 miles per hour in a 25 mile per hour zone, and Kandula was thrown more than 100 feet and died that night. Kandula was from southern India and had relocated to Seattle so she could support her mother. We are going to be talking about as many of those topics as we can get to with our contributors today. And we're welcoming in Dr. Raja Malika Rahim, scholar and historian of U.S. and African American history, and Danny Griffin, educator, entrepreneur, and motivational speaker. We will get right to the conversation when we come forward right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's the real deal in real time. You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
Did you know addiction to drugs like meth or cocaine is a disease and not a choice? But getting help is. If you have stimulant use disorder, you, your family, and friends may have a lot of questions, including where to start. Choose Change California can help. Make a change today and find a proven treatment option for you at choosechangeca.org.
My mom has decided to learn to paint, and she's good.
My dad's now into creative cuisine, and I've already put on 6 pounds.
Learning new things comes with age.
My mom, she started forgetting my name and what we're talking about.
Forgetting well-known things doesn't. Memory loss may be a sign of Alzheimer's disease. Early detection gives you and your loved one time to plan for the future. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
MVP's bonus days are back at Lowe's. Shop the largest selection of Klein tools and get 5 times the bonus points. Plus, right now, buy a DeWalt Power Stack battery kit and get a select DeWalt Bear tool free, up to a $249 value. Lowe's knows savings. Lowe's knows pros. Bonus points calculated before taxes and fees after applicable discounts, if any. Valid 9/18 through 9/29. Subject to change. DeWalt offer valid through 10/11.
Don't settle for bumps, ingrowns, and itch due to dry skin. Venus for Pubic Hair and Skin is here with the only razor and regimen specifically designed for your pubic area, featuring a razor with a patented irritation defense bar and skincare regimen that is dermatologist and gynecologist tested. Venus helps protect your pubic skin from shave irritation. Visit GilletteVenus.com to learn more about our full regimen of products.
For all of us, this generation and the next, there is simply no place in our lives for litter. And yet, it's everywhere we look. And unfortunately, it does belong to all of us. So, let's come together and create a litter-free, clean California, once and for all. Remember to properly dispose of your trash and recycling. Secure truckloads with tarps to keep debris from flying out. Clean out your car when you're at a gas station. Take pride in your community by organizing a cleanup event, or join a cleanup event near you. Zero litter is the goal. Join us at cleanca.com. That's cleanca.com. Let's do it together. Brought to you by Caltrans. cleanca.com.
The way we spend our time defines who we are. You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
And we're back on Areva Martin in real time. Avi Bernard here with you, and I'm joined by Dr. Raja Malika Rahim and Danny Griffin. All right, my friends, I'm very grateful to have both of you here. Let's get into it. So much to talk about today, and I want to start with this. Let's see, where should we start? Let's start with Ukraine. And not to get too much into the geopolitics of it, because it's a complex situation, but just for me, we need to support Ukraine because Russia, if they are allowed to invade Ukraine, which they have already done, and take over the country, which they're trying to do, they're not going to stop there. And they're going to continue to go to other nations that don't have the resources or the manpower to stand up to them. And so the way that we have been aiding Ukraine is by giving them money and resources, weapons. So to hear that Poland, which is a very important country in this whole equation, is pulling their support for Ukraine, it's alarming to me. But how do you feel about this, Dr. Rahim?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a bad day, right, for Ukraine. It's been a bad couple of months, bad year for Ukraine. And to see them lose their ally in pretty much the support that Poland was giving them is telling. But most of this is rooted in, the politics and the economics that is taking place in both of those countries. As Ukraine grain has pretty much, in many ways affected the Polish market, as they've been cut off and pretty much trying to fight against this Russian aggression.
Yeah, and I just think that I think Poland should not consider themselves safe from Russian aggression either. But Danny Griffin, welcome to the show. Your thoughts?
Hey, Avi. Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. Well, I mean, it's kind of complicated because we're using grain here as a pawn, right? And it's unfortunate because obviously Ukraine supplies China and Russia more than they do the EU. But I think this is just a war of words, so to speak, and about everybody playing tag, right? Obviously, Poland doesn't want to be put out there publicly, in front of the world, especially in front of Russia, because they are fearful that they can be next, more than likely, and rightfully so. And Russia and Poland has been a main contributor to Ukraine financially, as well as giving military assistance. And you have 1.3 million refugees from Ukraine in Poland. So Poland has been, an ally in this whole thing. And to all of a sudden, now you have, you're not wanting grain to come across, and you're worrying about if the president of Ukraine is saying this, and you're worrying about Putin hearing this, and he may attack hearing this. So now everybody's uneasy. So it seems like, both of these countries are really tight, and they need to do some things behind closed doors. And that's what Poland really wants to do. But obviously, President Zelensky does a lot of things, on television. He does everything out loud, so to speak, because they're crying. People are dying. So, he doesn't want to do the behind the closed door thing. He wants to put people out there. And hopefully these two countries come together because, everything that comes from the U.S. To go to that region goes through Poland on the ground to go into the Ukraine. So everybody needs Poland in order to help Ukraine because they border each other. And hopefully they can get this issue resolved regarding the grain and all of the other things, because we want to see this war end. And we also want to see these two countries continue to be allies and, to be a strong part of NATO moving forward.
Yeah, well said, Danny. Some solid points there. And I just wanted to start the show with that because it's a late breaking development as of today. Very important for everyone in the world, whether you think that Ukraine is important or not. It does, what happens there does affect what happens to us in the long run. And so we will continue to watch what happens with that. Moving on to a really sad situation about a young actor who passed away a couple months ago. His name is Angus Cloud. He died of an accidental overdose, and his cause of death was just revealed today to be an accidental overdose. And he was one of the stars of the show Euphoria, which is, produced by Zendaya, produced and starring Zendaya. And, it's a show that I'm sure is not for everyone. It is a very popular show on HBO. And I know that their forthcoming season has been delayed because of the strike. And just to see that another young man has died of a fentanyl overdose. And I just wanted to talk about this because are either of you surprised that fentanyl is the case, and why do you think it is that so many people, both young and old, of all ages, kind of whenever they get in the position of fame and a little bit of fortune, sometimes it leads to tragic outcomes like this. And Angus Cloud's father had passed away, and that's something that he had to deal with, and I know it wasn't easy for him, and so maybe he turned to drugs for that reason. But I don't know. What do you think it is about being in the spotlight, or just whatever, wherever you want to take this, whatever you took from this story. I just wanted to get your thoughts, because it's just a really sad situation. Even though he hadn't been on the public scene for that long, he was on one of the biggest shows on TV, which now has had multiple seasons, and their upcoming season was very much anticipated. So, what are your thoughts about this, Dr. Rahim?
Yeah, it's a sad situation. It's very tragic when you think about Cloud and the show being kind of his first big role, and he was becoming a breakout star. But I think it also speaks to the drug culture that we have going on within the United States, and the problem of fentanyl being laced in drugs. We do know, or there is a campaign against drugs and the safety of drugs for people, and the amount that people intake of these particular recreation or street drugs. There is something to be said when we're understanding that they're being laced with fentanyl. And I think, I don't know fully Cloud's story before he entered onto the show. So I do not know whether he was previously a drug user or not, or if it, as you stated, was the death of his father that has pretty much led him in this kind of led him into that mental and emotional unhealthy space. But yeah, it is a very tragic incident. It's sad, and it makes all of us, or should make all of us, really want to really do something about street drugs, recreational drugs, and to really understand that there are people who are addicted to these drugs, and that it is not easy just to say, why why can't they just stop, right? Addiction is a disease. But again, if we are understanding how do we treat addiction, we definitely have to treat, the lacing of drugs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just so many actors and stars from other areas of the entertainment industry have passed away because of overdoses, and it's happening increasingly with fentanyl. I mean, Michael K. Williams, the actor, is said to have died from an overdose. Mac Miller, I mean, Coolio. It's just really sad. Even Prince, we all remember when Prince passed away, and an accident. Part of that was partially because of an accidental fentanyl overdose. So Danny Griffin, your thoughts?
Well, first of all, this is definitely a tragedy. And obviously Angus Cloud, wasn't born in the entertainment industry. He was discovered on the street walking, and he was an everyday guy. And he obviously dealt with everyday problems. And this just goes to show you that no matter how much notoriety you have, if you're a celebrity or athlete, or you have a certain level of influence or a certain cachet, that you deal with problems that all of us deal with. And drugs is a serious issue, and it's been around for centuries. And it's going to continue to be around. But the thing is, we can change the culture and the way we go about, promoting drugs, or the coverage, the social media behind it. And, you only hear about these things after people pass away, and then it's like gone, right? So, maybe some more preventative measures and after effect, how it affects people's loved ones should be more into play. This is just a tragedy, and this fentanyl situation needs to just go away. Like today, it's a little different than a lot of drugs in the past, where people can be on them and you don't have as many overdoses, and people can deal with it and kind of be a functioning drug addict. This stuff can take you out immediately without having any previous history with drug use. This thing needs all the attention from all hands on deck, like right now, from all aspects, from primary school on up to adulthood. And I don't think it's getting some attention, but not the type of attention that it needs. And how many more people will be affected by this? And not just Angus Cloud, rest his soul, but just everyday people have been affected by this. I have a couple of friends who lost family members due to this, and they were young. We talk about mothers with kids and things. So I'm just done with it already. And, like I said, rest his soul, but it just affects everyday people as well. And this needs to be more of a national issue than some of these other topics that we go over.
Yeah. No, I hear you both, and thank you for that perspective. Let's talk about this situation with the Seattle Police Union. It's so infuriating because we talk about issues with police all the time, and this is a different kind of issue. So a Seattle Police Union leader was caught on camera joking about a woman who was killed by a police cruiser. She said her life had limited value and the city should just write a check. So this vice president of the Seattle Police Officers Guild, Daniel Alderer, he responded to the scene of a crash on January 23rd where another officer had struck and killed a 23-year-old graduate student named Janavi Kandula on a crosswalk. And he was driving 74 miles per hour on the way to an overdose call. And in the area he was driving, the speed limit was 25 miles an hour. And so she was struck and killed. And the drug recognition expert came onto the scene to see if the driver was impaired. And he left his body camera on as he drove away, and he called the union president. And the footage was released by the police department. And he says that he's basically saying that the officer who killed the young woman was not out of control. But then he said, well, she is dead. And then he laughed. And then he said, no, it's just a regular person. Yeah, just write a check, $11,000. She was 26 anyway. She had limited value. And then he was laughing all throughout this exchange. And he came out and said, yeah, I mean, I was just kind of mocking the way that people sue, the way that people kind of treat situations like this, where they just try to sue the city to get money. And he tried to make it seem like he wasn't being just horrifically insensitive and inappropriate here. And so, given a lot of events that have happened recently in this country and throughout this country's history, obviously, and you study this kind of thing, Dr. Rahim, with teaching African American and United States history, but I just want to get your thoughts on whether this is surprising. I mean, does this kind of peel back the mask a little bit to show how little they value life? And he's probably a member of the All Lives Matter crew, but I want to bring you in here, Dr. Rahim.
Yeah, he's probably more a part of the Blue Lives Matter crew, right? As well, when you're thinking about it. But no, we should not be surprised. One, I'm not surprised. It's sick. It's a sick mentality. It's a dangerous mentality. And an exposure of a set of belief systems and thoughts that a lot of police officers have over Black and brown lives. They fail to see any wrongdoing in their actions, and in their training, in their thoughts, and their own rhetoric. And in many ways, if he's trying to make a joke of situations like this in which people sue, it's not the fact that an officer hit this girl that people should also have the right to sue, is in his own rhetoric and his own willingness to make a joke of the death of this young lady is why people should sue. And yes, cities should write checks, but they should write ones that they can't afford to have actually cash so we can see the actual destruction and mantling of a system in which they allow police officers and individuals to have this kind of thinking about who life matters more and who life matters less. We shouldn't be surprised. It's just it's sick, and we're just happy that at least they were willing to release this footage. And I would like to see something done about this. This is the leadership of, these police unions, which makes it difficult to actually hold police officers accountable, because these are the people that go to bat for them.
Right.
Yeah, it should leave a lot of us speechless as well. Just how dare you have the audacity to say that. I'm sure you have a sibling, a daughter, someone that that's of her age that does not deserve to have her life taken in that way.
Yeah, and I'm sure the fact that she was from Southern India had a part in the reason why he was mocking the death. If it had been a young white woman, I'm sure I doubt he would have been making those jokes. And he said, this is a direct quote, "I intended the comment as a mockery of lawyers. I laughed at the ridiculousness of how these incidents are litigated and the ridiculousness of how I watch these incidents play out as two parties bargain over a tragedy." That makes no sense. Makes zero sense. And this is also, it should be noted that the disclosure of the call renewed scrutiny of the Seattle Police Department, because they recently faced an investigation over reports that officers had a mock tombstone for a Black man killed by police in a break room that also had a Trump flag, a Donald Trump flag, because of course it did. And of course they were mocking the death of a Black man, because they just don't value our lives, which is the whole reason Black Lives Matter was started. So when we come forward, Danny, I'll get your thoughts on this, and then I want to just lighten the conversation a little bit, because we have been talking about some heavy topics this first half hour, and I want to get to some other things, and I want to talk about Boosie sort of demanding a meeting with Vice President Kamala Harris, despite previously coming after her. And also Lizzo is being sued again, and we're going to get into the details right after this news, traffic, and sports update on KBLA Talk 1580.
Areva time is the right time. More of Areva Martin in real time when we come forward.
I'm Doug Davis with the latest from the Black Information Network. Police in Illinois are intensifying their search for a former Black NFL player after his mother was found murdered. Authorities went through the home of Myrtle Brown and came out with a white box. This development happened shortly after an Instagram video was released showing the man identifying himself as the missing Sergio Brown. Seattle city workers, many who are Black, are fighting for a fair contract. More than 1,000 people gathered on the steps of City Hall to demand higher pay, racial equity, and better safety on the job. Union leaders have been negotiating for a year in an effort to obtain a more satisfying contract. The Powerball jackpot is up to $725 million. No one matched all 6 numbers last night. The cash option for the huge jackpot is now over $345 million. The next Powerball drawing is Saturday night, and that's the latest. I'm Doug Davis from the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
A stall in Cahuenga Pass is blocking the 2 middle lanes of the 101 northbound. This is before Barham Boulevard. Traffic is slow and go from Western Avenue with about a 15-minute delay. Also seeing some delays in North Hills if you're headed southbound on the 405. A crash is blocking the right shoulder. At Nordoff Street, it's going to be slow and go from the 118.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. At Blindster, we offer over 50 different custom window treatments, including faux wood blinds and shutters, all at prices less than retail. Plus, we'll send you free samples before you buy. Don't hire an expensive pro. Do it yourself and save big at Blindster.com.
JP Morgan Chase is building on the investments in California to help close the racial wealth gap and build a more equitable future. Visit jpmorganchase.com/racial equity and get the tools to help reach your financial goals.
Is this the This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Dante Moore, a freshman from Detroit, has been named UCLA's starting quarterback for the remainder of the season. UCLA coach Chip Kelly was rotating Moore with junior Ethan Garbus through the first 3 games. Moore has thrown 7 touchdown passes and completed 62%. UCLA, ranked number 22, is at number 11 Utah on Saturday. Pressure appears to be building on Chargers head coach Brandon Staley to get the team turned around. The 0-2 Chargers are at Minnesota on Sunday. Staley was the Rams defensive coordinator when the Chargers hired him 2 years ago. The Chargers defense has been the main source of their problems. After 2 games, the Chargers have given up 666 passing yards, highest in the NFL. A lot of attention will be focused on how Staley gets the Chargers defense to play better at Minnesota. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
To boldly go where no man has gone before.
Boldly taking talk radio where it has never gone before. New vistas, new voices, new views, new visions, new victories. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we're taking public media black.
Hi, this is LA City Councilman Curran Price, inviting you to the 28th Annual Central Avenue Jazz Festival on September the 23rd from 11 to 7 p.m. For nearly 3 decades, the Central Avenue Jazz Festival has paid homage to the legendary Central Avenue and its influence on jazz history. Jazz, blues, and Latin jazz will be featured on 3 stages of music. Co-headlining are Hubert Laws with special guest Eloise Laws and the Billy Childs Quartet featuring Sean Jones. The day includes plenty of food, merchants, and 4 pavilions focused on youth programming, art, health and wellness, and public resources. Parking is limited, so Metro and rideshare are recommended. Hubert Laws with special guests Eloise Laws and the Billy Childs Quartet featuring Sean Jones. The day includes plenty of food, merchants, and 4 pavilions focused on youth programming, art, health and wellness, and public resources. For more information, visit CentralAveJazzFest.com. CentralAveJazzFest.com. See you on the 23rd.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 joins you in standing for education as a right, not a privilege. Charles R. Drew University of Medicine and Science is a private, non-profit, community-founded, student-centered university committed to cultivating diverse health profession leaders who are dedicated to social justice and health equity for underserved populations. CDU does this through outstanding education, clinical service, and community engagement. Recently, Charles Drew University made history by opening only the 5th medical school at an historically black university. Congratulations, South LA, and congratulations to the dean of the medical school, Dr. Deborah Prothos-Stith. CDU is now training doctors and providing $90 million in annual economic benefit to Watts and surrounding neighborhoods. To apply for medical school, get more information, or sign your child up for the Junior Doctors Saturday School program, visit cdrewu.edu. That's cdrewu.edu. At KBLA, we are dedicated to equity in education and ending healthcare apartheid, and we don't black down. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. There's no time like the present. Let's get back to more of Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
We're back on Areva Martin in real time. Avi Bernard in for Areva Martin today, and we're talking about this Seattle police officer who was mocking the death of a 23-year-old young woman whom was killed by an officer in the Seattle Police Department. And just this is it's a horrible, infuriating situation. Danny, I just wanted to give you an opportunity to weigh in before we move on.
This is just despicable. It was gut wrenching, right? It just gave me the chills when I saw the video and heard the laughter. How comfortable are many people around the country in the world with death. It's just gives me the creeps. Just straight evil. Let's just take his position out of it. That's who, when you put on a uniform, regardless of who you're representing, you're still a human. Okay. And you're in this country or whatever city, you're still a human, regardless of your race, creed, or background. And to laugh like that after you hit somebody, right? And then we see the African American boys, the young men that killed the police chief from the city of, I think, Bells in Las Vegas, and they ran him down and laughed. This is just something that we see across the board, not just in law enforcement, but just every day with all types of people. Death is so common now and it's so acceptable. And, this is just awful for this guy to do this and say that and use, legality and issues and court systems and stuff to justify him killing this young lady. And obviously if she was a different race, but let's just take race out of it, because a lot of people use race so candidly and it just distorts the bigger picture of inhumane behavior. And something needs to be done. And just firing this guy is not enough, because this seems to be a culture that's going around the globe, and particularly in our country right now, of killing people, vehicular or guns or whatever, right? And I just think this needs to be denounced, the behavior, and take some of it off of just being law enforcement or what ethnicity she was or he was, and just take the act. Let's just take the act, because people clothe themselves behind race and all these other things as pawns. Let's just take this act as being evil and this is bad and we can't do this in this country. It just scares me right now, because if he's in law enforcement doing that, that means, who do you trust, right?
Yeah, it's definitely very, very hard to hear about, and I hope that there does continue to be accountability, and if officers and police unions, whom this man was a part of, the higher ups of the Seattle Police Union, then they need to come out and speak out against things like this. If they don't want to be seen like this, if they don't want to be all put in the same boat like this, then they need to denounce this kind of thing loudly and repeatedly. But I want to talk about Takeoff, who was murdered in November of 2022, and more specifically, his uncle Quavo. And so Quavo, yesterday he was at a Washington D.C. He was in Washington D.C. to speak on a Congressional Black Caucus panel about gun reform, and he met with Vice President Kamala Harris, saying he wanted to use his platform to prevent what happened to him and his nephew Takeoff, to prevent that from happening to others. And so then Boosie, another rapper, said that he wants to also have a meeting with Vice President Harris about gun reform. And what makes Boosie's request notable is that when Brittany Griner was detained in Russia, he pretty much blamed Vice President Harris. And we can have a different conversation about why it wasn't Vice President Harris's fault that Brittany Griner was detained and held in Russia for so long. But Boosie blamed her, and now he's coming out and saying, I want to meet about gun reform too. And he wrote on Instagram, he posted a photo of the gathering with Harris and Quavo, and he said, Vice President, he said, at VP, I want to advocate for gun violence prevention. Also, can you use me to save some of the younger generation that's lost? These kids will listen to somebody they look up to who had similar childhoods before they listened to their own parents. At VP, meaning at Kamala Harris, I know I can make a change because I've been doing it already when I talk to the troubled youth. Boosie's words hit different to the youth. So a couple of questions here. Should Kamala Harris take him seriously? And do Boosie's words hit different to the youth? As he said, is this something he's just kind of doing for attention? And should he be taken seriously by the vice president, whom he previously trashed for no apparent reason? Dr. Rahim.
Well, a meeting would at least give him a chance to apologize to the vice president for blaming her for the Brittany situation. I think it's a yes and a no, right? On one hand, I haven't heard a new Boosie record that's hit major airways in a very long time. So I'm not sure what youth he thinks he's appealing to, but I am going to say that, the Boosie, hits of the past have longevity and they still get played. Whether the youth of today know, maybe people of my generation and are probably a little older would resonate more with Boosie, but I think Boosie does make a good point in which there needs to be creative avenues in which to reach young people and to bring young people into politics. And if whether it's Boosie or someone like Boosie to do so, I think the vice president would benefit from looking at someone like that. Boosie at this particular point, whether he's going to be able to get to Washington because of his house arrest or to wherever the vice president may be, that's another issue. But I think he is trying to at least use his social media platform to not only take accountability for his actions, but also to try to send a positive message to the current generations and future generations. So maybe he's worth a shot. But
yeah, no,
there's other people that we can probably pick from first.
Right. No, you made several good points there. And I think an apology would be a good place to start. It's interesting how people will be disrespectful and then just try to move on like nothing ever happened and ask you for something. Now this is something in which maybe he can make a difference. I don't know. As you said, I don't know that many young people have ever heard of him, but I think the more people who do have some kind of platform who are in favor of gun reform, the better, but he seems to think that he can make a big difference because he can connect to the youth, and maybe he can. But I think that if you're trying to get an audience with the vice president, then being disrespectful and then never saying anything again, not apologizing, no nothing, and then just coming with an ask is probably not the best tactic. But Danny Griffin, let's bring you in.
Oh, absolutely. You got to get this guy the platform, right? We give everybody second and third and fourth chances. I mean, we watch Iron Man faithfully, Robert Downey Jr. We watch all these people that have all these past discretions, and we got this guy, we go say no, and he looks like us. We got to, in order to make this collective be a true collective, we have to support each other in spite of. We're not God. We're not judge, jury, executioner. Let this man speak. Obviously, we need to hold him accountable. And we need to, whenever we have our Black queens and our people that are trying to do the right thing in a respectful manner, such as Vice President Kamala Harris, he needs to come out and we need to hold him accountable before you get a seat at that table. You can't be disrespectful at the table, get up from the table and come back to the table, back and forth. So we need to hold him accountable, but at the same time, it's millions of kids around the nation that love this man and listen to this man. Everybody's not from the same cloth. A lot of people in the South move differently than they move here. Different people are progressive, educational levels, backgrounds. So it's some people that's listening to this man right now. So if you can touch one, you've done your job. So we just got to hold him accountable for his actions as well, to let people know you can't disrespect your parents, your grandparents, or vice presidents, and then come back in the house like nothing happened. We can't allow that because that's foolishness and that's unacceptable. You know what I mean? I don't listen to him personally. I know the song Wipe Me Down a little bit, But other than that, I don't listen to a lot of derogatory things no more because I'm just on a different path myself. I'm not 22 or 19. So, but I understand him, and I say, and I've been to caucus and been on a panel at caucus. And when you speak at caucus, you're very influential. Everybody's filming, everybody's taking notes, and it's going to be out there. So give him a seat at the table. Well, he needs to apologize in the room next to the room where the table's at before he get at that table. That's just me personally.
Yeah, and to your point, Danny, you're not 22 or 19, and nor am I. But I think that's exactly the audience that he would be trying to reach. And I don't know if he still has many in that audience, but he definitely has some, and he has some who are in our generation who would be willing to listen to some of the things he says, at least. So yeah, I think the more influence behind the subject, in favor of the subject of gun reform, the better. But when we come forward, we're going to talk about Lizzo. She's being sued again. This story, I know a lot of us are hesitating to really make a judgment before we get all the facts, rightfully so. I know myself personally, a lot of us like Lizzo and appreciate her message of body positivity and supporting the work that she's doing, supporting a Black woman who is doing her thing, and we do want to hear all the facts, but we do got to talk about these allegations and what they mean for her, and we're going to do just that when we come forward right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's the real deal in real time. You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
Applications are now being accepted for the City of Los Angeles Emergency Renters Assistance Program. The program provides up to 6 months of rental arrears to low-income residential renters who are at risk of homelessness due to unpaid rent as a result of COVID-19 or other financial hardship. Applications will not be accepted after 6 p.m. on October 2nd, 2023. Go online 24/7 at housing.lacity.org or call 888-379-3150 from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday and see if you qualify. Apply today.
I'm MC Light for Hip Hop Heritage, celebrating 50 years of hip hop, authentically powered by Cadillac. From its earliest days of show-stopping, DJs and MCs cold rocking parties, to its dominance on the music charts, hip-hop has been the biggest game changer in American music, and I mean ever. And it's not just about the music. It's how we celebrate, how we communicate, how we continue to elevate. Check out Cadillac and see how our swag has evolved and continues to revolve around the world.
For more on how Cadillac is celebrating hip-hop's 50th, visit Cadillac.com/audacity.
Ugh, I don't have time for a cold.
Honey.
Honey?
You need DayQuil Severe Honey flavor.
DayQuil Severe Honey gives you powerful cold and flu symptom relief with a honey-licious taste. Because life doesn't stop for a cold.
Okay, I'm ready to go.
Now I'm getting a cold.
Honey.
Try DayQuil Severe Honey for powerful cold and flu relief. DayQuil Severe Honey flavor. The daytime coughing, aching, stuffy head, fever, honey-licious. Power through your day, medicine.
Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Do you have heart failure and often hear,
"Those stomach issues ruined your birthday"?
"You're too tired to play catch, Grandpa."
Sweetie, you haven't touched your tools since the carpal tunnel syndrome diagnosis.
If these seemingly unrelated symptoms sound familiar, talk to your cardiologist. Ask about transthyretin amyloid cardiomyopathy, or ATTR-CM, a rare and underdiagnosed disease that gets worse over time. Learn more at connecttoyourheart.com. That's connecttoyourheart.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
You're listening to K-Drip, where we play all the best classic water-wasting hits like watering your lawn during the hottest time of the day and leaky faucets. They're tunes from another time because now that we face a hotter, drier future, every drop counts. Despite an extremely wet winter, keep using less water, fixing leaks, and reusing indoor water for your garden. Visit SaveOurWater.com for more ways to conserve. Up next, brushing your teeth with the water on. K-Drip.
The way we spend our time defines who we are. You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
And we're back on Areva Martin in real time. Avi Bernard here with you in for Areva Martin. And I am joined by Dr. Raja Malika Rahim and Danny Griffin. So, my people, let's talk about Lizzo. This The situation does not seem to be getting better. It seems to be getting worse. So she has again been sued by a former employee who said that behind the scenes, she allows bullying, harassment, and racial discrimination. So it's a fashion designer named Asha Daniels, 35-year-old, who said she felt like she was living in a madhouse. She was listening to this Black woman on this huge stage have this message of self-love and caring for others and being empathetic and being strong and standing up for others. And these are her words. I was witnessing myself, the dancers, and the background vocalists and my local team in every city be harassed and bullied regularly. So the lawsuit filed today by lawyers for that woman, Asha Daniels, here in LA, accused wardrobe manager Amanda Nomura of doing stereotypical impressions of Black women, referring to the performers as fat, useless, and dumb, and forcing them to change in front of a mostly white male stage crew who would lewdly gawk at them. And she said, quote, "Lizzo is the boss, so the buck stops with her," close quote. So these are disturbing allegations. Well, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts? Let's start with you on this one, Danny. What are your thoughts when you read this story and hear that these allegations against Lizzo?
Well, first of all, I'm a fan of Lizzo because I just like what she represents in terms of, coming from New Orleans and just making it to the level where she is. And also for just women and African American and minority women all together. This is unfortunate because when you own something, when you're a supervisor, when you're a person in charge or the main sole proprietor or in a limited partnership, you're always going to be accountable at the end of the day. So you just have to have things in place, and they just come up later on. In this case, you see racial discrimination and you're like, wait a minute, the dancer is African American, the artist is African American, and people are like, wait, what's going on? Well, most of the team were Caucasian males that was, handling the tour. So they should know better to make these disparaging comments if they were made, because this has not been to trial or jury or whatever yet. It's just all allegations at this point. But come on, man. I mean, and that's why you have to have ongoing training while you're going through the process, whether it be a tour, a wing stop, or any business. You have to have constant training and make sure people are taking their breaks, making sure there's no harassment. You just have to have accountability. And, after this instance, regardless of the outcome, I think Lizzo, just like Rick Ross and everybody else that has these type of things, you got to put plans in place to protect yourself and to do the right thing by your employees and make sure everybody's well-versed and educated on the subject matters of harassment and just all this other kind of stuff, because all of this could have been prevented. And it's just obviously communicated, and people are just being entitled once again, of behaving badly, so to speak.
So the charges were filed by a lawyer on behalf of the woman. The lawyer's name is Ron Zambrano, and he is also the lawyer for 3 former dancers who accused Lizzo of sexual harassment and a hostile work environment in a lawsuit last month. And Lizzo's team is saying that these allegations are false. They're saying that they wanted to sully an award that she was meant to receive tonight and kind of take the attention away from her and this honor that was being bestowed on her. So at this point, it's just one word against another, but this is the second set of allegations, the second lawsuit, I believe, against Lizzo and her team. And so I don't know, it's hard to know what to think at this point, but just looking at these allegations, what are your thoughts, Dr. Rahim?
Yeah, there's still much to be uncovered with these lawsuits as these lawsuits get played out in the courtroom before we actually can pass, I guess, a correct judgment on Lizzo and the type of workplace environment and culture that she allows if she is, if the buck do stop with her. And it's kind of surprising being, of course, Lizzo and knowing Lizzo's message of body positivity and coming out against people who participate in body shaming, and her, uplifting messages about, Black women empowerment. So to see these lawsuits come out, now gives us a cause for pause. And it's an unfortunate situation, but it's not surprising, because if some of these allegations are true, it's not so much speaking to Lizzo, but this Lizzo situation is just representative of the workplace culture in America, where there is a lack of education regarding what is sexual harassment, what harassment looks like within the workplace, how people interact, especially in this day and time, being that we are operating off of, the Me Too movement and, this new climate when it comes to women. Also, we have to, include men in those conversations and who has the rights to certain protections. So it is a conversation that is happening, but the door has been opened with now these 2 lawsuits. And if there's more that comes out, then I would say there's more to the story than Lizzo and her team probably really wants to admit.
Yeah, it is worth discussing the workplace training that so many of us have to go through. We have to watch these videos, these really poorly produced videos, and I guess they're just funny. Maybe it's harder to act in this type of video, but these videos that depict reenactments of sexual harassment and say and kind of try to teach us what is appropriate and what's not appropriate, and as ridiculous as those videos seem sometimes, I think they are important, because we do have to constantly remind ourselves what is and what is not acceptable in the workplace. And I think a lot of times when people are in a position of power or ownership of a company, and they're able to employ others, then they think they have a certain power or a certain right to talk to those people or treat those people any type of way. And that's really unfortunate, because just because someone works for you does not mean that you own them. But very interesting conversation. We will continue to watch this and a lot of these stories we've been discussing today. But Dr. Raja, Malika Rahim, and Danny Griffin, thank you so much for your time today. Always a pleasure to hear your perspective.
Thank you, Avi. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, we'll talk to you soon. And when we come forward, we are going to be talking in the second hour about Colorado football. Deion Sanders. We're going to have KBLA sports reporter Ray Richardson joining us right after this news, traffic, and sports update right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Doug Davis, and here's the latest from the Black Information Network. A former Black ESPN anchor is staying quiet on if she's